So this is going to be for the unified communications and how do we integrate all the components, okay? All right. So the most important one is the CUCM, right? Okay? That's a very, very important. It's the critical. It's the critical because it's the processing, call processing, okay? So these call processing have specific components and specific protocols. The first one is the CTI component, okay? The Cisco, the computer telephone interface, okay? Then we have the other component, which is called the CSF, Cisco Service Framework, okay? And then we have the component, LDAP, Active Directory, to authenticate the users. Then we have the component H323 gateway, and then the SIP protocol, Session Initiation Protocol, right? We also have the TFTP, but we don't care about that one because that's only gonna download the firmware for the phone. Okay, now this is connected to a phone, right? To a CTI phone. The phone is connected to a computer, okay? The phone talks to this port CTI QB protocol 2748 TCP port, okay? All right, and then the client here, the whatever is the soft client using the SIP is registered here, right? Using the Cisco Service Framework, okay? Now this user ID, it has to exist in Active Directory, okay? So Active Directory talks to the domain controller and authenticates the users, okay? And this is where we have a lot of problems in the authentication part. The authentication process has three components. Has the KDC, K distribution center, ticket granting ticket, and then ticket service. Okay, this is LDAP protocol, 389 port, 3 TCP. Okay, and this is the authentication. So the user has to have a CSF. It has to have a physical association to a device, to a physical device, extension 444, right? And this user has association to here, 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 and here, under the call manager, okay? Now, this user has to be able to authenticate in the Active Directory into the domain controller, okay? So this user, for example, Alice, is in part of the domain controller, so it has pre-shared keys, so he can authenticate, okay? So he can log in. Okay, now, H323 is very, very important because H323 protocol will talk to meeting place, right? Which is our next component. Actually, I will put components like appliances and devices in red, okay? This is a server, this is a server, this is a server, these protocols, okay? Now, meeting place has two Ethernet interfaces, right? So has one Ethernet 0 and one Ethernet 1. One is for the audio conference, and then the other one is for web conference. This is the critical point. H323, that is a TDM protocol, right? It's a PSTN, right? So the reason why it's right here is because we're gonna have a pilot number associated to this meeting place express, like a 7-digit number, that we call that number, and it will say the IVR, welcome to meeting place. Please enter the PIN or your credentials for this audio conference. Well, it's talking in H323, right? Now, if the user wants to enable share desktop, right? It's gonna go on the other Ethernet. It's gonna authenticate. And it's gonna say, I can deliver or I can share my desktop. This meeting place has to have a full qualified domain name, right? Full qualified domain name. Not for the H323, but for sharing a desktop, right? For sharing a desktop, we need to full qualify the domain name. That's why when we go here like a WebEx, we go to the http.webex.com, and then from there user ID and password, right? And then I set up this conference meeting. This is going authenticated here, coming back, going to full qualified domain name, and everything which is full qualified domain name is in the internet, right? In the internet. And to work in the internet, we need the DNS, the domain name system, and full qualified domain name. So now, if we have a problem in meeting place, right? And if the problem is in regards TDM connection, the only thing we need to debug, right, or set up traces, is in H323 traces from the call manager. Okay? If we have problems like users are unable to access to the internet, or to the HTTPS or HTTP website of the webex.com, then we need to debug traces in the zip or in the DNS engine.